Hello, everyone. My name is Nia Delacruz. I'm an intern this summer at Facilities Management, focusing on sustainability. And today I'm going to be talking about utility cost savings and some energy efficiency measures. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So when I started this, nope, I think it's just slow. Okay. When I started this position, I honestly wasn't too sure what facilities management was, so I wanted to include some background. They do a lot of stuff actually, and I've learned quite a bit this summer. They maintain over 90 state-owned buildings in the downtown Raleigh area, as well as a few surrounding locations. And you may think they just do building maintenance, but they also do housekeeping, landscaping, utility services such as HVAC, electrical, and plumbing, as well as some power plants that are on site. So you have the steam plant that provides hot water, dehumidifies your building, and provides heat. And then you have the chiller plant that provides cold water. So another major thing that they do that I've been part of this summer is monitor and pay for utilities. A big part of my internship has been looking at those invoices and kind of seeing how much things cost. So this is not just your electricity, it's irrigation, your water and sewer, gas, waste, and recycling. So this puts you facilities management in a unique position to think about sustainability and how to reduce our costs. So first, we got to learn more about sustainability. This is the framework that we often use to triple bottom line. It includes people, profit, and planet. People is social sustainability, and it has to do with equitable futures and social equity, basically. And it has a couple variables, including health, community, and education. There is profit, that it's economic sustainability, and it has to do with bottom line and cash flow. And then there's environmental sustainability, which most people have heard of. So it has to do with natural resources, water and air quality, as well as some energy conservation. And this is systems that regulate the natural world. So you've got the three parts, and when they overlap, they create a successful, sustainable project. Okay, it's really slow. Okay, so why reducing utility costs though? So if we break down each of these parts, you can see that reduced usage plays into all three. So for people or that social sustainability, we're able to make more comfortable office spaces, and this improves people's well-being in state buildings. For example, you may have had a really cold or really warm office. So when we reduce some of those strains on the HVAC system, we can make your office more comfortable. We also can reduce our impact on communities near power sources, waste facilities, and areas where resources are collected. So for planet or environmental sustainability, we can reduce our emissions, specifically carbon dioxide, and that's from reduced utility usage. We can also reduce our resource consumption, which helps to protect future generations, as well as reduce some of our environmental impact. Lastly, we have profit. This is particularly important for budget purposes. We all know that sometimes money is a little confusing and complicated here. So if we use less, we can reduce our financial stress on the state, and then we can apply that money to more projects that directly impact the public. So now I have a little interactive poll. If you can join, that'd be great. I'm going to ask some questions related to costs of buildings. So it's just like little multiple choice questions. You pulling it up? Is it good? Yeah. Okay. So it will be on the next slide too. No, it will be on. So we're going to be talking about the Albemarle building, the one I'm in now. So what was the cost of the June 2025 electricity bill for Albemarle? I have the poll on my phone, so I'll kind of let you know how it's going. Right now, the most answers is 12,500, sort of.
Assuming you don't know, just pick C.
I don't know, it might not be C.
Okay, you go back to the QR code.
Yeah,
there's some people that wouldn't get it that have my too. There we go.
Now it's 10,209. So
Yeah, full people.
No problem, Jellen.
I shouldn't say.
No, do not cheat, Jellen.
You two in the back should.
Yeah, but I said y'all feel like y'all know the answer. I read.
And maybe some of the people online, Brittany, don't pick the right answer.
John Gunther, it's okay if you look it up. It's not okay if John Felix looks it up.
Right.
Let's look at all the comments here.
So
Yeah.
Again, the most common picked answer was 10,209, but the actual answer was $15,640.
Oh.
More than you thought, just a little bit. So, given that, what was the cost of fiscal year 23-24? It's important to think that June is a little bit more of a warmer month, so that might not quite be the average, but it's still good above.
130.
Let me.
Oh, we got
You're
to pick it up
gonna
here.
kind of joke. Oh, gold there tends to be naturally.
Right, that's what I had to quick math. Real quick math. I became a lawyer, now that counts. Trust my numbers. Trust my deals.
We've got 134,675 right now is the most popular answer.
Look at that one. Like we should have the Jeopardy music.
Right.
I know, right? Yeah.
Just for full disclosure, we got about 130 buildings, and I don't remember everyone's monthly cost. Unfortunately, there's a lot of buildings we have, a lot of units.
Yep.
Okay. The answer was $161,145. So pretty large. I'm going to ask another full question so you can keep that up on your phone if you want. But those are just large numbers. So let's do a little comparison. If you take your monthly electricity cost for the Albemarle building and you counter in the average North Carolina home electricity bill, which is about $120, you can power 126 North Carolina homes for an entire month, which is a lot.
That's just this building.
Yeah, just this building. So then if you take that yearly electricity cost and that average again for the electricity bill, you can power 111 average North Carolina homes for an entire year, which is crazy.
Yeah, that is TVs on it.
I love for my bill to be covered.
Right.
I know, right? Yeah.
So now I'll talk about some of the differences here in a minute, but which use more electricity in fiscal year 23-24, the Albemarle or the Dobbs building? So the Dobbs building is the one on the left, and in case you're not familiar, I included a little different map to see where it is, and the QR code is in that corner of the screen.
All right, let me see. What did that? I feel like it's a trick question because our building's taller. There's wider.
Many things to think about. Okay, the most popular is the Dobbs building so far. So, oh no, that's the wrong thing. I was looking it upside down. This is a graph that we can make through our utility data collection, and it is the Dobbs building. As you can see, it's quite a bit more, and there is quite a big difference. So there's some things to consider. Your square footage, of course. The Albemarle building is a little under 200,000 square feet, and the Dobbs is a little over 200,000 square feet, so it is a little bit bigger. However, the Albemarle building was built in 1970, and this one was a few years later in 1977. But the big thing to consider is if they were renovated. And the Albemarle building was renovated in 2016. But there may be a couple other things contributing this, so I'll talk about some of those. There are some inefficiencies in building structures sometimes. So the first is poor insulation. Our insulation serves to keep heat in during the winter and heat out during the summer, but if things are not insulated well, it can cause varying temperatures, which is uncomfortable for building occupants. So this picture on the right shows some areas in which heat can be lost. This can be anything from your floor to your roof. But sometimes that's even exacerbated by the next thing, which is air leaks. This occurs at points between structure and a building, so like a wall and a wall or a wall and a floor, but really it occurs most between a wall and a door frame or a wall and a window. Sometimes there are gaps there that just make it hard for the HVAC system to regulate temperatures. Now those were structural things, but there are also elements inside a building that cause inefficiencies. So I found this graph from the US Energy Information Administration, and in 2018, they conducted a study to see what the fuel consumption in different US commercial buildings was. And to start first, lighting accounted for 10% of that. So if you have inefficient lighting, it's gonna cost a lot of your energy. right now we are in the process of transitioning to LED bulbs, but due to budget, we can't transition all at once. And so right now we're only doing it when maintenance requests come in. Another thing to consider is your HVAC system. According to this study, 41% was due to space heating and cooling. So that is the major consumption right there. Again, a lot of systems are older or even their original systems when the buildings were built, but because of budget, those units are really, really expensive. So we cannot replace them as much as we want to.
Question. What's the distinction, if you know, between like office equipment generally and then computing? And maybe because the only equipment in my office is a computer.
I guess, I don't.
Only type your sunshine.
Like,
Yeah, I was thinking. about that.
Use the fax or whatever, or scanners and that kind of stuff, I would guess.
yeah. And I wonder if computing includes like server.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh,
It might be other bigger things
that
that are.
generate a ton of heat.
And
Yeah.
generally plug load, I think would go into that as well.
Okay. Whereas like, yeah, office.
I'm
Okay.
just blown away by the space heating, how much, no one can take space heaters.
Right.
The 11th floor is
Proportional space heaters.
and then sometimes it's like that glaring, terrible lighting. So like, is that something that the building controls? Like, is that automatic or is it something that like someone in the office?
So I believe this building has 100% LED lights and that there are a lot of occupancy sensors in here. So it might just kind of be
Ship.
that.
We also have, there's certain lights based on building code that we have to leave on 24/7. So there are emergency exit lights. So if you drive by the building at night, you'll see lights throughout the building that are on. We have to keep those on for safety.
I was noticing that about the new DHS building this morning. I drove past it. I was like, oh, the lights are on. And then I was like, probably for safety or like protocol reasons. So the good news is that facilities management is working really hard to put in initiatives to prevent some of these things and help with energy efficiency in general. So one thing I've done a lot of is tracking utility data. It was really intimidating at first. There were a lot of large numbers, but over time I got more used to it. So the first thing that I was taught was collecting our monthly invoices specifically for water, but it includes all of our utilities. And we put them in kind of a software that combines all that data called Capturus. Then we transfer that to an Excel file that makes graphs like this. So this one is the Albemarle building and it's by month and it looks at water and electricity specifically. And so you can kind of see those different visuals, which is really important to us because sometimes things aren't correctly put in and it helps to see those. So we also do building assessments, which is another way to visualize what's going on in a building. We look for any really high usage, any really low usage, or maybe areas where we're missing data. So given that, sometimes there are flaws. One time I saw a water bill for $3 trillion. That was not correct. So these do cost a lot of money, but not that much money. So we keep a running list of utility questions of things that we want resolved. Sometimes things just in the software are wrong. So over time, we check those off and make sure everything is correct. So I mentioned our transition to LED lighting. Right now, again, when maintenance is called, we always replace those with LED. To the left is a picture in my office of one LED bulb that replaced 2 fluorescents. I'm not sure why they gave me an office, but it feels pretty cool. I noticed that. I also noticed in the facilities that they have occupancy sensors in the bathroom, which again is pretty cool. So this only come on when people are in the building. So a lot of times when I first go into the bathroom, the lights are turned. Now, if you're like me, sometimes you have problems getting those things triggered, but a lot of people don't have that problem. That's mostly just me. So we're also transitioning to touchless faucets and flush valves. It just helps to reduce your water usage. Now, this is my favorite part. Shout out to Bill, he's back there. This is building walkthroughs. So this is mostly done by Phil, our special projects manager, but I got the honor of walking around with him this time, so it's pretty cool. He looks for physical things in buildings. So inefficiencies, maintenance, or anything that can be improved. We went through the museum, we went through this building, we went through Dobbs building. I can't even list all of them. So it was really cool to see the differences in each building. Some of the older ones, some of the newer ones, they all have different little quirks to them. So some things that he's found over time is this thermostat that's set both heating and cooling. The real problem here is that it's set to 72 and 70. These are really close together, so anytime one kicks on, the other one kicks on too. Sometimes weird things happen like this from people adjusting them, so it's important to look out for that. Another is just a lighting fixture that needs to be replaced. And last, this door, which you can see has an air leakage. that lighting is a key indicator. You can also kind of put your hand up to it and feel the air pulling in and out. One time, I can't remember where we were, but we were in between an air conditioned and non-air conditioned space, and it was a stairwell to a parking deck, I believe, and you could just feel the air coming in and out. It makes it really hard to regulate temperatures in that area, and it's really inefficient. So important to look out for. Next, we do steam plant efficiency initiatives as well. Again, I got the opportunity to go into the steam plant. I actually got lost on my way there, but once I got in, it was really cool to see. I got a tour around and got to talk to the manager of it. So they have some initiatives including steam trap maintenance, steam pipe insulation, and our boiler tuning. These all help to reduce your emissions, reduce your water loss, and then increase efficiency of the plant overall. So I'd like a little input maybe from the people online in the chat or here in person. But what else could we do to reduce utility costs? And what could you do as building occupants? Just let me know if you have any ideas.
I can do better at closing my windows when I'm not here, like the blinds.
Okay.
They're open and I just leave them open. But I know that particularly in hotter months, the sunlight, I think on that side of the building tends to be brighter. And so our side it's usually not as cold. I think it's like y'all side is. So yes, I can do that.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute, actually.
Sometimes, which is something I remember, like when they give you like the roll of what is it, paper towels. So when you have like the roll itself, you tend to use like a lot compared to the sensor. Yeah, when it gives you just one, and then you don't want to like keep going over and over. And so
Yeah, because I pulled these off the roll that I was saying.
Because the lighting does helps to make you more efficient.
Right.
More efficient, not the, yeah.
Where's that located?
The bathroom.
Goes over here, he's gonna fix it.
Well, even if they turn up the lights in your office, like my office has so much natural light. I am on the east side of the building, so I get like it early in the morning, and then they're still on the ambient light all day long. So I hardly ever use the light.
shut down your computer.
Yes.
Just put it to sleep.
Yeah, I'll talk about that
Yes.
too. Very important. Okay, so these are some actions I came up with. Like you mentioned, closing your windows and using best practices with blinds. So please do not leave your windows open. It is best to always close them, as the hot air will come in during the summer and the cold air will go out during the cold air will go out during the summer. And that hot air will go in the
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, we know what you mean. You know what I mean? Sorry, tripped over that, but that's okay. You know what I mean. So it's best to always keep them closed, especially in extreme temperatures. Sometimes you walk into a place, again, with building walkthroughs, and you see these windows open and no one's in there. I walked into a bathroom recently that was about 85 degrees. Air conditioning was running, but it just couldn't compensate for the window that was open. So, and then we use best practices with blinds, like you mentioned. It's best to keep them closed during the summer, as there's something called solar heat gain, when the sun shines on your window and it brings in warmth. And then during the winter, you want to allow that sun to come in and actually heat up your space naturally. So it just helps us everything be a little more efficient and use less of the heat for the air.
All right, question. So like, it works with the hot blinds. They're one set, either open or closed. But think about like at home when you have,
Yeah, you turn them.
like, is there a difference between like angling them up a little bit versus closing them all the way?
It's gonna be best to close them all the way.
I like the natural light.
See, I know that.
I have a lot of plans.
Yeah, so it's best to, if you can at least turn them a little bit. I mean, it's better than the window being wide open.
Right.
But I understand sometimes you want natural light, sometimes you have plants. There are things that are kind of an exception, but
It's good to know.
good thing to consider. And now we'll talk about the computers. So you can follow the general rule of turning things off. If your office or they say conference room or anything has manual light switches, always turn those off when you leave. That is super important. Computers, there's such thing called power management. So manual power management is when you go and unplug things from the wall. That is really important. But there's also automated power management where you can kind of go into your settings. It will look like this on the right side here. And it will give you certain things like energy efficient mode where you can turn things on at a certain time. So when your screen turns off or when it goes to sleep, and that's really important too. We do recommend though, if you're not using it for over 2 hours, that you just go ahead and unplug it. That's by the Department of Energy actually, so that's what they recommend. again, sometimes they'll offer other things too. Like I think dark mode is more efficient and you can turn on this energy saver mode on your computer. Next is appliances. Again, they gave me an office and I not only had 2 monitors, I had a phone and all this other stuff, but I also had a printer and a shredder. And as an intern, I kind of have no use for those things. So, one of the first things I did was go, oh, are those plugged in? Sure enough, they were. And I immediately unplugged them because I don't really have a use, but I know someone might. So if you can use your common space appliances, if there's a printer somewhere else, turn off your desk side printer and unplug it, anything like that. Also, maybe your space heater or your fan, anything that, oh, if you have a mini fridge or a microwave just in your office, if you can avoid those and use common ones, that's much better. We also ask that you maybe don't use space heaters or fans. Those pull a lot of energy from the wall and it can cause a fuse to blow and then your maintenance team has to come and fix it. So when you have a large plug load like that, it's really difficult.
Okay, I have a really probably dumb question, but when you're talking about the computer and unplugging it, so a lot of us have, laptops and it charges in the plug, but for a lot of time, we just take the laptop with us and leave the cord in there for ease. Is that still fully, or because there's nothing on the other end, it doesn't, or what?
There's such thing called a vampire load. So even when things are plugged in, so like my printer that I never use, even if my printer is turned off, it's still going to suck up some energy from the wall. So if you don't want to fully plug it out of the wall, if you have a power strip, you can turn off your power strip, but still we recommend just pulling the whole thing out.
Okay.
The black box is converting AC to DC. So there's energy being used, it like you light there.
Right. Okay.
That's the vent.
Okay. The turning off the power strip is good enough. We don't have to
Oh, yeah.
unplug it. Okay.
Okay, yeah, because I was wondering about that, because my setup is I have 2 monitors and I have a laptop that I plug in, and there's also lights, like motion sensor lights on my desk. And all that is plugged into a extension box.
Yeah.
And before I leave every day, I just turn that off.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Is
You
that
get a gold star.
Is that still sucking energy though? Like
I
through
think the power strips don't.
the power strip? Okay.
Yeah. And there are like more smart power strips that will even like fully cut things off. But your like average power strip, that does help for sure. There's also energy saving modes on your copiers. So if you look around your building and you're like, that's a copier, you can look and see if there's an energy saving mode that needs to be turned on. So that's something to look for as well. So because we pay for recycling and waste bills, another thing you can do is help us recycle properly. So here's some signage that talks about what we take. We use the shape rule, not the numbers on the bottom. So we're looking for bottles, tubs, jugs, jars, and cans for plastic, glass, and metal. And then for paper, we're looking for newspaper, office paper, paperboard, cartons, and magazines. So those are some things to look for and make sure you're recycling. We also ask that if you have a desk side recycling bin, that you take that into the bigger common area bins. It makes it easier for our housekeeping team, and it just makes sure everything is recycled properly. So when you're done for the day, if you have a lot of recycling, or when you go for the weekend, just put it in there. Okay, so that might be a lot of things to remember at once. So I made this where you can make a weekend checklist. We encourage that you put on an event on your teams for around 30 minutes before you leave. If you're really into it, you can do it every day. If you want just a weekly reminder, say on Friday when you leave, you can do that. So in the description, you can put a list of things. And this is a form you can put in your email and I'll send you that list directly. So if that's helpful, you can write it down somewhere, or you can even paste it right into your team's event. And that just makes it extra easy. I've done this myself and it's helpful because sometimes even I forget things. So I'll give you a second. I'll also put this at the end, so it's easy to pick up. Okay, last thing is I'm going to go over a little summary so we just remember all those things. There are things that you can do with building occupants that are really important. Facilities management works kind of from the top down and puts in these bigger projects, but it's just as important that many people on the lower end, the building occupants, put in small things. And these are things that are completely free for the most part. So it's extra easy because the projects cost more money. So you can close windows, use your blinds properly, turn off lights if you have manual light switches, turn off your computers and monitors, unplug your personal and unused appliances, set copiers on your energy savings mode, and take your desk side recycling to common area bins. Some things to look out for in general and potentially given a work order to be fixed by facilities is your leaking faucets, any kind of running toilet, an air leakage you may spot, lights permanently turned on or on during unnecessary times, with the exception of emergency lighting for safety reasons, and then really large plug loads that hopefully maybe you can reduce yourself, unusual thermostat temperatures like you saw on that one slide, and lack of access to common area recycling bins. So all these things are really important to just consider as you go about your day. So this is additional information. If you have any questions about the program, you can contact our sustainability specialist, Brittany Quinn. If you want to submit a work order, you can talk to your building coordinator about your observations. And if you want more recycling information, you can go to the NCDOA facilities management page, and you'll be met with these 3 pop-ups with additional information.